iOS 13 and iPadOS brought a massive update for shortcuts. This is a huge update. It changes a lot of the ways we can work with the app. It's now a system feature. It's built right into the system. It's not an app you can go and download from the App Store anymore. It's preloaded, so that means it's hooked into the system more. I'm really excited about that because it shows Apple's commitment to it, which is great as somebody that basically lives out of it. Now there's some kind of weird things happening with the features here. So 13.0 is coming out September 19th, but that's only for iPhones. iPadOS won't be coming out till September 30th, which is going to be 13.1. Now there's some features that I'm going to talk about in this video that are coming with 13.1, and I mentioned that at those parts, but I just wanted to give a heads up that if you download 13.0 and you see some stuff that I'm doing and it's not in there on your iPhone, it's because it's coming later, September 30th. So the release window is kind of weird this year. It kind of messed up my plan, so that's why I'm doing this video early. I'm going to be doing a big iPadOS walkthrough, but there's so much to cover in shortcuts that I just felt like it needs its own video. Before we get into it, just one last quick thing, I promise. I want to mention one other channel. It's by a guy named Matthew Casanelli. He used to work on the Workflow app. That's the app Shortcuts was before it got bought by Apple, and he was at Apple for a little while too. He has a YouTube channel that's dedicated to shortcuts. So if you want to know even more about shortcuts, he does a really great job of it. I will leave a link to his channel below. So go check him out, subscribe, do all that stuff. Let's get into shortcuts. So right off the bat, you'll notice some UI changes. I have iOS right now in dark mode, but you'll notice the colors in Shortcut aren't as vibrant as they used to be. I'm not a huge fan of this. I liked the vibrant colors. I use them to kind of make categories for shortcuts. So I had like task manager ones, utility ones, stuff for photos, things like that. I know a lot of people did. Now, to me personally, the colors start to blend together. Like if you notice up here, they blend together a lot. Like here's a color, here's a color, here's a different color. And to me, if I didn't know those were different colors, because I built those, they kind of look the same. So I'm not a huge fan of kind of these more washed out colors, but you know, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It's not the end of the world. But let's talk about building a shortcut. Let's just jump into it. So Shortcuts now uses this new parameter system. Parameters are basically a way of passing data from one action to another. The way Shortcuts used to work is an action would inherit what came before it. So the previous action would give it information and pass it to the next action, and so on and so on. Parameters basically allow you to pull information from all over the shortcut. And I'm going to show you guys a shortcut that I built before in the past in the old version of Shortcuts that basically was creating a calendar entry, but first checking to see if, you know, we had anything available for that day. What you might notice over here on the left-hand side is the category system is completely changed. There's now these 8 buttons up here. Technically, there's only 7 categories. You add stuff to favorites yourself. So there's all these other ones. Apps have all the first and third-party app actions. You have scripting. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this category system. I like the other one. It just was a little... Maybe I was just used to it, to be honest. Maybe I'm a bit biased. I've been using workflow and shortcuts for a long time, and that's what I was used to. I knew where everything was. I thought it was easier to discover actions. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just, you know, being an old dog and not learning a new trick kind of thing. But what is cool is down underneath here is there's now suggestions. And these are based on what you've been doing in Shortcuts. So it'll kind of tell you, hey, you've been doing a lot of stuff with Timery or the Home app. So here's some actions based on that. That's pretty cool. I like that. Pretty handy to have. I'm giving it a good thumbs up. So let's go ahead and start building the shortcut. So like I said, this is going to be a calendar shortcut that basically checks to see if we have anything going on a date, and then we can add something to the calendar for that date. So let's start with an ask for input. And we're going to put up here date question mark. So that's just asking for it. Then we're going to switch to date and time. So that way we get the date and time spinning wheel. Then we're going to come over here to date. And then we're going to get format date.
Then we're going to select the magic variable. So I've talked about magic variables in the past. I will put a link to the video that I did that before. But basically, magic variables are this wand icon right here. And this is basically how you use parameters throughout it. So there is no more get variable action. If you use the get variable action, that's now gone. You have to use magic variables now, which I think is a good improvement. Magic variables are much better to use, much easier to use over the get variable action. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. If you're coming from iOS 12 and you do use the get variable action, there is a migration utility, so all your stuff will get migrated and updated in the background. You don't have to do anything. It works really well. We're going to hit the show more right here, and we are going to create a custom format, and all we really want is, you know, year slash... Sorry, guys. I'm in the United States, so we're going to do month, day, year, and then we're just going to get rid of all this other stuff. So this is basically all we want right here. So it's going to be month, day, year. This is the custom format right here. Another thing that's changed in Shortcuts is up here at the top, this used to say what this action was. And honestly, I don't like that they changed this. It makes it a lot harder to just read a really long shortcut and know exactly which action is which. Now it shows the category or the type of action it is. I think this is not a great thing. If you have a long shortcut, it makes it much harder to read. It makes it much harder for somebody looking at a shortcut to rebuild that shortcut. I liked seeing exactly what action was right up here. It just made things a lot easier, for me at least. But let's move on to the next action. So we're going to go back to calendar. And we are going to get upcoming events. I like to set this to something ridiculously high, so that way, just in case if you have a really busy day, it'll get it anyway. So we're going to get 20 events. I'm just going to say get from my personal calendar, and then we're going to do a count action. So you guys kind of see like how there are multiple actions in here. These are the parameters. So this is actually going to help cut things down. It's going to help cut down the amount of actions you need. I had a shortcut that was 80 actions, and it's down to, I think it's like 45 now. It was like 80 something, and now it's down to like 45, I believe. So it does a really good job of cutting down the amount of actions. It makes it easier to read. It would be easier to read if this said exactly what action it was and not the category or type. Let's get an if statement now. Let's see here. If, man, have to scroll way far down to get an if. Okay, so we're going to do if count is greater than 0. So basically what this is going to do is we're going to say if the amount of events is greater than 0, it's going to show us our events. So we need a choose from list. I just like to use this one. We're going to swap this guy out right here. So we're going to hit clear, select magic variable, get the upcoming events. So this will now show all of the upcoming events in a choose from menu action. Typically with choose from menu, you need to select something and then it does something after that. I like to use a choose from menu here because it breaks up all the calendar events without me having to do some weird formatting and like having to do some repeat actions and put asterisks and things like that. This is just a quick and easy, kind of not correct way of doing it, but for me, it works really well. So the next action we need is a show alert. And we're just going to say nothing on our calendar today. So there's one other thing I forgot we have to do. So we have to come into this action right here, the get events action, hit show more and specify date. Now we need to come down here, click this, and we need to click the magic variable button and hit format date. I get why these are automatically collapsed, but honestly, I forget that you need to do things a lot in them because of it. So it's fine, but I really wish there was an option in settings or something that basically says auto uncollapse everything, because I want to see everything, because a lot of these like specialty actions that are within the action, I use quite a bit. So I would very much like an option to say uncollapse, but you know, whatever. You get what we get. So let's add the final action, and this is going to be for calendar. Calendar, add new event. So we're going to add event title. So ask each time, so that way it's going to ask us for the time, and then it'll just, you know, ask each time for the start and end time. So, and then we can come down here and do like more stuff if need be, but I'm just going to leave that alone. So you guys can kind of see how Shortcuts now does things a little differently with parameters. There's multiple actions within an action. It pulls stuff from different areas. I really like parameters. I think ultimately this is going to be really good for the shortcuts community and the people that build shortcuts. It takes some getting used to. If you're somebody that considers yourself an expert in shortcuts, spend 15, 20 minutes with it and you'll get the hang of it. If you're brand new to shortcuts, this is what this video is for. I can make more of these if you guys have questions. I have some more shortcuts that I'm going to show in the upcoming segments of this video, but this is the best time to get into shortcuts because everything is a lot simpler now. First-party actions aren't the only ones that can use parameters as well. Third-party actions got a big upgrade. They're no longer just the Siri shortcuts of very like specific things that can happen. They now have parameters, so they can both take in information, data, and pass back out from their app information, data, whatever. It's going to be a huge upgrade to shortcuts, especially if you're really into using third-party apps. I'm on the beta for a few third-party apps that I've been using in shortcuts. They can do some really cool things. Now, these apps haven't exactly announced what they're going to be doing with shortcuts, and I'd hate to be the one that spoils it for those developers, especially if they're not going to be launching on day one when this video comes out. So I'm not going to talk about them here. I'll do a big video about like third-party parameter shortcuts in the future because I don't want to be the one that spoils the fun for those developers. So in the future, I will talk about those. Know they're there. Make sure you're checking this app section in shortcuts, and you just kind of keep an eye on those change logs when apps are getting updated the day iOS 13 comes out and iPadOS comes out in the future. All right, so there's a couple of new actions I really want to show you guys that I'm really excited about. So this shortcut is going to do something really cool. So it's going to check to see what lights are on, and then if a light is on in a room, then it's going to play music in that room to the AirPlay speaker. So this is going to be pretty cool. So let's check this out. So the first action we're going to get is one of the new home actions. It's going to be get state of home. And we're going to have it get the state of the living room lamp. And we're going to have it changed to power state. So get living room lamp power state. And let me add a quick look action really quick right here. So what you guys are going to see is I'm going to run this. It's going to return 0. So that means it's binary. So 0 is off, 1 is on. So right now the living room lamp is off. So let's go ahead and delete this. And let's get an if statement. So we're going to get rid of this. And we can actually get rid of this as well too. So we're going to use the input, the built-in input. You can select a home accessory. You don't actually have to have the state of home action. I just wanted to show you guys it was there. So we're going to select home accessory. We're going to select lamp. We're going to change this to is on. So basically right now, if the living room lamp is on, it's going to run this section. If it was off, it would run what comes underneath the otherwise. So if living room lamp is on, so we're going to get playback. So we can now set playback destination, and we are going to set it to living room TV. And then we got to pick some music. So music, play music. And we'll just do library, playlist. We'll do the Baby Driver soundtrack. That's a fun soundtrack. So if the living room lamp is on, it will set the playback destination to the living room TV, then play the Baby Driver soundtrack. I could even take it a step further now and do, since my Apple TV is out there, we can do Apple TV, and we could do Wake Apple TV. And then we can come in here using parameters. This one always takes a second for some reason, but living room TV. So it could wake the living room Apple TV if we wanted to. So that's kind of cool. But this right here, playing on living room TV, that's playing on the living room TV. I can have it set to play on the living room Apple TV, but this is just playing right on the TV. If you have it play on the Apple TV, you don't need the wake action. So otherwise, if the living room lamp isn't on, I live in a small apartment, so that means I'm going to be in my office then. So let's do playback. Set playback to Office HomePod, and then we will do play music. And again, library, playlist, we'll do some AC/DC. So basically, this is kind of cool now. So it will check to see the state of the living room lamp. If it's on, it'll do this. If it's off, then it'll do this. You can do all sorts of cool stuff. You can, play around. You can add a bunch more if statements in here and make things way more complex and do some really cool stuff. If you guys are playing around with this, let me know on Twitter. I'll put my stuff underneath how you guys are using this. I'm really into home automation right now, so I'm really excited about this. So that's really cool. One of the features that's coming in iOS 13.1, which is coming out on September 30th, if you're watching this before then, is Conversational Siri. So actions like ask for input, choose from menu, choose from list, and dictate text. If you're using Siri to run those shortcuts, you can actually talk to Siri back to it now. This is super exciting and super cool. I'm going to switch over to the other camera and show you guys this shortcut here in just a second. But basically, this is my check grocery list and add to grocery list. So when I run this, it'll have a choose from menu. I can tell Siri which one to do. Then it'll ask me what the new item is, and I can tell it what the new item is. I can actually tell it multiple items if I'm typing it, and it'll split the text up and do multiple things. I haven't really figured out a way to tell Siri line break, but this is pretty cool. So I'm going to switch over to that other camera now and show you guys how this works.
Grocery list. Add to list. Hot dogs.
Another feature that's coming in iOS 13.1, again, that's September 30th that it's coming out. So if you're watching it before then, this is why it's not in iOS. Same thing with iPadOS, that's coming on September 30th as well. So we're going to click over to this automation tab right here. This is brand new. So basically, this is going to allow you to run shortcuts without you having to manually tap on them. Sometimes. I'm going to kind of put an asterisk on the word automation here. Automation to me means it runs in the background without you having to interact with it at all. Some of these you'll have to hit run from a notification. Some of them will run in the background. So let's kind of get into it. So you'll see some ones that I have right here. These ones at the top that run at a certain time, I get a notification and I have to hit that notification and hit run. So I have one that runs a shortcut actually because I already have a shortcut. This shortcut's like 30 something actions, so I didn't really want to rebuild it. So I literally just put the action in this automation. So this automation runs at 6:01 a.m. every day. And then it runs the today summary shortcut. So this is kind of cool that you don't have to rebuild shortcuts. I wish there was a native way that would just like, you could just assign a shortcut to run at a time. But I kind of understand why not. They don't want people sharing a bunch of shortcuts that run like every 5 minutes playing obnoxious noises or whatever. But yeah, this is kind of cool. So you can, if you have a shortcut already and you want it to run with an automation, you can just use the run shortcut action. And then this one right here is kind of a journaling one. Basically, it sets do not disturb for 20 minutes and then opens the journal in GoodNotes. It's pretty cool. Runs at 6:05 a.m. I get a notification and I have to hit run from that. So this is one that I think is kind of cool that a lot of people might like. So when it connects to ear things are my AirPods. That's what I labeled my AirPods. You can actually come in here to devices and pick multiple things. Spoiler for something that's coming up, or that's already come up, depending on what time, when you're watching this video. But yeah, you can pick more than one as well. You can pick more than one device that it connects to, but right now I just have this connecting to my AirPods. So when my AirPods connect, it runs this menu action right here. So it gives me an option to play Overcast, play some playlists. There's a Pure Focus playlist that I really like from Apple Music. And then Play Creek from Dark Noise. Dark Noise is a noise app I really like. These three down here will run automatically. So when LumaFusion is opened, it basically starts this video project timer in Timery and then sets do not disturb. Because when I open LumaFusion, that means I'm editing video. I don't want to be disturbed. I need to focus on that. And then I'm always editing video, so just start the video project timer automatically. So that's great. Skype is kind of the same thing. The only time I ever use Skype is to record my podcast. So I just automatically have it start my podcast timer and then turn on do not disturb because I'm recording a podcast. I shouldn't be disturbed. These are really cool. There's home automations and stuff down here. I really like these. Let's kind of get into the triggers and how you build them. So there's two options right here. You can create home automations, and these are based on home triggers. So when somebody leaves, comes home, certain times of day, things like that. Or you can create personal automation. There's a bunch of triggers in here, and there's some that I don't have. So I'm showing you this on my iPad. If you have an iPhone XS or newer, including the new iPhone 11s, there's NFC options. So you can get NFC tags, program those. I don't have an iPhone XS right now. My iPhone 11 is on its way at the time of recording. So when I get that, I'll record a whole separate video about how I've been using those. I ordered a bunch of NFC tags and I have loads of ideas. But for right now, let's focus on the triggers, what we do have available. So at time of day, when an alarm is stopped, when you arrive, when you leave, before you commute, when airplane mode is turned on, when you connect to a certain Wi-Fi network, when you connect to certain Bluetooth, I've already showed you guys this one, when do not disturb is on, or when you open an app. Open an app's pretty cool because you can literally open any app and then it'll just run a shortcut in the background. It's pretty great. If you want something to run in the background, you have to think about it this way. There has to be some sort of manual interaction. There is no like at a specific time of day or when I get to a place, just automatically run it. You have to manually interact with your phone somehow. So if you're opening an app, you're manually opening that app, so it will then just run it in the background. So that's kind of how that works. But like if you get to your office, you have an office job, and you get to your office and you want a shortcut to run, you'll get a notification. You have to hit run on that notification in order to run that shortcut. It's kind of a bummer. I'd like to see true automation. I could kind of see they're just afraid something would run in the background that shouldn't run in the background, and then somebody would get in trouble, and then somebody would be mad at Apple, and then Apple would get sued. So I kind of see why they're trying to avoid that, but at the same time, it would be really awesome as a power user of shortcuts and iOS for me to be able to say, hey, when I arrive at my office every day, I want Do Not Disturb to automatically be on my devices. I don't want to have to manually hit run on a notification. It's not the end of the world having to manually hit run, but it would be cool if it did it automatically. Once you pick a trigger, let's go ahead and pick the time of day trigger. There's a few options in here. So I can tell it a specific time of day, or I can use sunset or sunrise, specific days of the week. There's all sorts of different things in here to pick from. So alarms have few options, arriving, have location-based stuff, time ranges, so you can tell it only within a specific time. So if you're like coming home and you just want it like when I'm coming home from work, and you come home from work in the same window every day, you could use it for that. Commuting before you go to work or come back home. Settings in here, you can choose like airplane mode on whether it's turned on or off, things like that. Open app, things like that. So let's just pick time of day, and we're gonna say this happens at sunrise every day. At sunrise every single day. We could turn off Saturday if we want, but whatever. We'll just leave it every day. And we're gonna say notification. Show notification, and we'll just say hello world. So every day at sunrise, we're going to get a notification that says, hello world. Really cool stuff, really easy to build, just like any other shortcuts. The only thing is you just have to pick a trigger first. So figuring out how that trigger works is part of the automation, part of the fun. I'm going to use automations a lot. I didn't use them a ton over the beta because they were pulled out midway through the beta and they were gone for a while. So now that we got them back, I deleted everything I had, and I've kind of been rebuilding them and rethinking them. So I don't have a ton right now. I'm looking forward to getting my iPhone 11 so I can use the NFC tags. This is either something you use or you don't use, but now you can add shortcuts to the home screen quite a bit easier than what you did before. So you come up to this menu, you hit add to home screen, you can change a different icon or put something else there, and you just click add. No more going to Safari, having to manually hit add icon to home screen. Nope, you just get this right there, and then you could just literally tap on it and it runs. No more opening Safari or anything else. It's Really nice. It's quite a bit quicker. Personally, I think it's much easier to use. If you listen to my podcast, A Slab of Glass, I'm going to be talking more about how I use this feature on that. I'll put a link in the description if you guys are interested. Apple takes security very seriously, and I can see why they're really hesitant about letting people share shortcuts. It could be very easy for me to write a shortcut and then share it out, and it just abuse things like sending people messages that shouldn't be sending messages, or playing audio, or doing all sorts of things that, you know, shouldn't happen, that an end user that got the shortcut didn't intend. I mean, I could write a shortcut that basically says, hey, this is for, you know, writing a script, but really it ends up playing a really obnoxious song or something like that. So with this version of shortcuts, they basically turned off sort of the feature of sharing shortcuts. By default, you have to come into settings now, come into shortcuts here, and you have to turn on this feature right here, allow untrusted shortcuts. So basically this is for receiving shortcuts that are outside of the gallery. So any of these shortcuts right here in the gallery, these are all fine. You can install these without enabling that. But if you get shortcuts from like Reddit or friends or whatever, or websites, you have to come in here and enable allow untrusted shortcuts.
That's it for shortcuts in this video. I know it's really long. I'm sorry. There's just so much to cover, and I really just wanted to get it out in one video, one place to go. I didn't really want to do the thing where it's like a 10-part series and each part is 2 minutes long, and you know, there's 2 weeks in between each part. I just wanted to get it all out there. So that's it. I want to know what you guys are doing with the new Shortcuts app, what cool things Shortcuts 3.0 has enabled for you guys. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.